Hey everyone, retrostitchgaming here, back again with another game review. Previously on the channel, we reviewed the game that sparked an entire franchise and also defined an entire genre, the amazing Resident Evil.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Then we reviewed one of the most incredible games I've ever played and my all-time favourite game, the masterpiece that is Resident Evil 2. So now it's only fitting that we finish the trilogy and review Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. After the success of Resident Evil 1 and 2, Capcom immediately started work on the third game in the Resident Evil series, as well as many other projects, Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and Code Veronica being amongst them. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was originally supposed to be a spin-off title, but the game that was originally planned to be the third installment was trashed completely and they got rid of it. That game would see you playing as Hunk, you know, the cool Umbrella Corp, aka Mr. Death, or whatever his name is, who shows up in many games throughout the series. Most memorable probably Resident Evil 2 in the fourth Survivor, where he was, and in the original third game, he was meant to be on like a luxury cruise liner trying to find a G-Virus sample to retrieve it for Umbrella. But yeah, after that game was scrapped, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, or just Resident Evil Nemesis, was then promoted to the third game in the series.
The game was originally supposed to feature an all-new character in their escape from the zombie-infested Raccoon City. This character was however scrapped and replaced with fan favourite and my personal all-time favourite game character, Jill Valentine.
Resident Evil 3 was released in 1999 for Sony's PlayStation and would go on to sell over 3.5 million copies. It was then later ported to Sega's Dreamcast and Nintendo's GameCube, which, as you'll know if you're fans of this channel, is our favourite way to play most of the classic Resident Evil games.
The game starts out on September 28, 1998, 24 hours prior to the events of Resident Evil 2. Former STARS member Jill Valentine has become trapped in Raccoon City and must plan and execute her escape. Most of the population has now been turned into flesh-eating zombies after an outbreak of the T-Virus, a biological weapon that caused the mansion incident 2 months prior, which our heroine Jill Valentine managed to survive with 4 other members of STARS. Jill runs into several survivors along the way, such as her former STARS team member Brad Vickers and several Umbrella Ops, Carlos, Mikhail and Nikolai, who were sent into the city to try and contain the outbreak and rescue the civilians. Jill must fight her way through the zombie-infested city streets, the police station, the city park, clock tower and many more new areas, all the while being stalked by Umbrella's latest creation, but more on that later.
She's also perfectly prepared for our upcoming challenge, dressed in the perfect attire for the situation. I mean, there's no way she's getting hurt in that outfit, is there? Seriously, Capcom?
The creators wanted to try and make this installment a lot more action orientated. The game introduces a lot more enemies with huge numbers of zombies or monsters appearing on the screen at one time, and a much faster paced gameplay as you spend most of the time running through the city streets. This is quite a change from the previous games where you moved around more slowly and cautious, as the game built tension and dread. This doesn't mean this game loses its fear factor though, as it swaps the growing tension for constant panic, paranoia and adrenaline. The game adds a lot of new features, such as the gunpowder you can find throughout the game, that comes in 3 different types, A, B and C. A gunpowder makes handgun rounds, B gunpowder makes shotgun rounds, and C gunpowder makes grenade rounds. You can, however, mix the different types of gunpowder in different combinations to make different types of ammo, such as freeze rounds, acid rounds and flame rounds for your grenade launcher, and even magnum rounds, although these take a lot of gunpowder to produce. You do still find regular ammo spread throughout the game as in previous installments though. A new dodging mechanic was also introduced which allowed you to dodge enemy attacks if timed right. This was a great addition and once you got the hang of it, it became a great asset and could really get you out of some dangerous situations. The problem however was that it could be pretty hard to pull off, or it wouldn't always work when you wanted it to, or you'd find yourself pulling off the dodges when you didn't intend to. The game introduces certain choices that can be made throughout the game as well, where you must pick one of two options and either one can make a big difference to the way the game pans out. All your classic Resident Evil style puzzles still appear throughout the game, which is awesome and one of my favourite things about the original Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 3, however, is home to one of the most annoying and frustrating puzzles. The dreaded water puzzle, which if you've played this game you'll surely remember. The overall gameplay is the same as in the previous two installments and uses the same engine used in those games, with the beautiful pre-rendered backdrops and fixed camera angles, which as always added to the fear and paranoia, and the famous tank controls once again, which as you'll know, we love. Unlike in the first two games where you had a choice of two different playable characters, there is only the one playable character, Jill, in this game, and no B scenario like in Resident Evil 2, so the game doesn't have as much content or replayability as the second installment. There is, however, the Mercenaries minigame, where the player must control one of 3 members of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service that Jill encounters during the main game, and run from one side of the city to the other within a limited amount of time and resources. However, the starting time limit given is insufficient to actually perform this task directly, and the player must continuously receive time extensions by performing certain actions such as defeating enemies, rescuing civilians, and exploring hidden areas.
Hang on a second. I feel like there's something really important that I'm forgetting.
Stars.
Nemesis, one of the most memorable and terrifying Resident Evil monsters of all time, the thing of nightmares and the first pursuing enemy in the Resident Evil series. Yes, there was Mr. X in the B scenario of Resident Evil 2, but he has nothing on this guy and didn't have the ability to follow you from room to room, sprinting at full pace and firing bloody rockets at you, and would only show up at scripted moments throughout the game. The Nemesis T-Type is the result of infecting a Tyrant, a humanoid bioweapon created to be the ultimate lifeform, with a parasitic organism designed to increase its intelligence. Upon infection, the parasite takes control of the Tyrant's nervous system, forming its own brain and enabling it to follow precise instructions and make decisions without a need for constant direction. Clothed in black trousers, an overcoat, boots and gloves, the Nemesis is armed with a rocket launcher mounted on its left arm. To emphasise its design as a prototype, the game developers left exposed muscles on its body and added stitches to cover the right eye. Upon spotting its target, it says the target's name out loud and attacks. After making his first appearance early on in the game with one of my all-time favourite Resident Evil cutscenes, he will continuously stalk the player throughout the game, popping up whenever he feels like it, following you from room to room and charging straight for you. He can move faster than Jill, so can catch you very easily. The terror and fear this guy gave me as a kid actually scared me to play this game. You can take him down to give you a short break from time to time, but he will always come back more relentless and pissed each time. After the amazing job they did with Mr. X, so terrifying and memorable in the Resident Evil 2 remake, I am equally excited and mortified by what this guy will be like should we get a Resident Evil 3 remake. Throughout the game you are joined by Carlos, one of the Umbrella Ops we mentioned earlier, who stays with you throughout most of the game and is one of the few Raccoon City survivors. You get to play as Carlos for a small stint of the game after Jill becomes infected during a boss fight with Nemesis. As Carlos, you must explore the Raccoon City hospital in a search for a cure for Jill. Apart from just the zombies and Nemesis, you must also face off against other monsters. Once again, the dogs and crows return, as well as the infamous hunters from Resident Evil 1, as well as a new species of hunter. Then there are new enemies such as the creepy and disgusting Drain Demons and the hideous Gravedigger that shows up several times throughout the game before its final appearance in a boss fight in the cemetery, hence the name Gravedigger. The visuals are pretty similar to the Resident Evil 2 graphics. This game contains several of my favourite Resident Evil cutscenes, and I'm so glad they kept the pre-rendered backdrops and fixed camera angles instead of following other 3D games from this era, as it's helped to make the game hold up well to even this day and made the gritty urban atmosphere feel so much more alive. As expected, the game is home to yet another amazing soundtrack with so many memorable tracks, a personal favourite being the save room music, which in such a fast-paced adrenaline rush game allows for moments of relief and relaxation as soon as it's heard. Overall, we give this game an 8 out of 10. It's a fantastic game and one of our favourites in the series, which gave us one of the most memorable gaming villains of all time. It was great to see so much more of the famous Raccoon City, as one of my only nitpicks at the Resident Evil 2 is that we didn't see much of the city. The game is fairly short compared to its predecessor, as it's only got the one playthrough, yet that playthrough is brilliant and a must play for any Resi fan or any PS1 owner. RE2 will probably always be my favourite Resident Evil game, but this one is definitely up there as one of the best. If you've never played this game, then please do yourself a favour and get it. Or, fingers crossed, with the success of the Resident Evil 2 remake, we'll hopefully get a full Resident Evil 3 remake soon, as most of the groundwork will already be in place from Resident Evil 2. It'll also be awesome, as you'll be able to own all the way from Resident Evil 0 to Resident Evil 7 on your PS4 or Xbox One.
So there you have it, that's our Resident Evil 3 Nemesis review. If you enjoyed, please give this video a big like and subscribe to the channel, it'd be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see more Resident Evil content, we've got tons of it on the channel to check out if you're interested. I'm sure a few will be popping up around here somewhere any second. So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy our other content. I'll see you in the next video if you decide to return.